Just wait a little bit. Hello, it is Wednesday, a live version of the podcast in this moment, coming at you on this Wednesday. And y'all, it's been a busy Wednesday for me. Wednesdays are always quite busy. Um, and yeah, this is my first time going live in a long time, way before I was as busy. And hi, somebody is on the way over, uh, joining my live from Tanzania. Hi, Ma. Good. She says good morning, but it's actually good evening here. Thanks for joining the live. You can live chat me while I am on. I don't plan to. Hi, sis. Hey, Letitia. I don't plan on being on too long, and this will be recorded. So, whoever's out there that you would like to share this with or talk to about the things, about what's happening here, it'll be here, and so people can see whenever they need to at a more convenient time. So we are embarking upon Mother's Day weekend. So I'm just going to say Happy Mother's Day to my mom, who is right in the chat. We This is our first, Mom. Did you realize this is like our first ever Mother's Day without being in each other's presence? We have never done that before. So did you think about that? Type in the chat and let me know if you thought about that. But yeah, this is Mother's Day coming up, and you are 8,000 miles away. Oh, you didn't think about it. Well, yeah. Well, I did. It's all good. I'll call you on Saturday morning or Saturday night, I think, which would be Sunday morning your time. It's all good. All right. So it's been about 2 minutes since I started the live. I have a good, intimate crowd in the group. And just wanted to say, hey, y'all, this is little sister Chris and your grief therapist. And just coming on to the podcast, y'all, coming on today, to talk about some things that I have noticed in my time of being a therapist that clients normally don't know. They don't know. They think that when they call into a therapist office about grief, that everybody is able to handle grief and loss. And that's unfortunately not the case. It's not the case. So let me let you in on a secret. And this is nothing about other therapists or anything, even case management. If you have children or if you have somebody in the system, nobody is really that well trained in grief. And it's pretty sad that nobody is really trained in grief. And I went to grad school and I did not get but maybe one very accelerated course in grief. So the grief training that I had to get or I got was way after grad school. It was a seminar, it was certifications, it was all of that after grad school. So not every therapist is equipped to handle grief and loss. And you can tell that because the first thing that therapists love to do is talk about the 5 stages of grief because that's like everybody's default. If you are here in America, everybody's default is to go straight to the 5 stages of grief, and that is not something that I do. So let me tell you some things that as a grief therapist, some things that I do that possibly the ones other people will not do for their clients is being able to sit with people in uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable feelings, being comfortable with allowing people to cry, to be angry, to express their guilt feelings. I've had some people in my office who started to wail, and I'm surprised nobody else heard it in the office, but I'm like, let it go, let it flow. I just sit there like, let it go, let it flow. Because it used to be a time where I felt like that was uncomfortable for myself too, because I had unaddressed, unresolved grief for myself, and that used to wear me out. It used to make me want to run. Whenever I would see somebody in grief and teary or feeling their emotions, I would want to run away because I had my own stuff that I had not dealt with. So that's some information about what it's like for a therapist, and also what it's like as a client to go in and not have somebody handle your grief very well. I've heard so many stories about therapists who didn't say much at all, just kind of just like, hmm. I've heard of therapists fall asleep in sessions. I guess they, felt like they didn't want to attune to the client, or maybe it was too much for them, or maybe, they should not have even scheduled that client for the time that they scheduled them. I've also had really bad stories, and I'm gonna tell you this one story. I used to work for the state, and I was having a conversation as a consultant. I was having a conversation with someone about a foster youth. The youth, I think, was somewhere between the ages of 11 and 14, somewhere in there, I can't remember. And I remember doing the consultation and hearing the provider say things, and they were not a licensed, so I can give you that. They were not a licensed individual. So I can say that piece. But you all, when children in grief, they really need to know. They need to know that grief of a death of a parent or a death of a sibling puts young people at risk for mental health illness throughout their lifetime. It puts them at risk for financial issues. It also puts them at risk for early death themselves, whether they start to develop some medical issues like high blood pressure, diabetes, from the stress of things, or even like digestive issues. But they also are in jeopardy of suicide, suicidality, and self harm. So it is like a big deal when you are interfacing with a young person in grief. So I'm having this conversation with this provider about this child, and the child was in foster care because they lost a guardian. They lost their mom. So the child was not doing very well in the foster homes and acting out and behaviorally at school. So while I'm listening to this whole scenario, I'm thankful that this child even has services. And I hear the provider say, well, I just think that this child is using their grief as an excuse. And I'm online doing this consultation, and I immediately get triggered because if y'all are on this podcast, you know my story. You know that I was a young person in grief, 14 years old, lost my brother, and nobody had a conversation with me at school whatsoever. I was not one of those bad kids. I was a more internal processor, so I was very quiet. Nobody knew what I was struggling with, but I never got my grief addressed at school. So I was immediately in a mood. And then I had to talk myself down from this mood after hearing this provider say that, because they don't know. And then I had to snap out of it. Like, I'm not 14 years old anymore. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm actually like their supervisor. I'm doing consultation. So I need to educate this person about grief. And so after I got myself together, I said, well, if anybody's going to have an excuse, I believe grief would be a good excuse, because you have to think about and consider where we are. This child is in foster care because they lost a guardian. So not only have they been disrupted from their home, but they've also had a death and they're grieving. So I would think that we would allow them to have grief as an excuse. This is another reason why I do what I do as an educator, as a therapist, as now a mental health grief agency. Now, that's new information. That I do what I do because of conversation like this. I also go to meetings where there are council people, there are people who have some type of pull politically, and what they're talking about are like the buzzwords. There's buzzwords of opioid abuse, there's buzzwords of substance use and abuse. Not to say those are not big things, I'm not saying that, and we should not be concentrating on that. I'm not saying that, but they talk about all the other mental health diagnoses in the trends and all of that, but they fail to talk about the trend that is not a trend, that it's real life. They fail to talk about grief. In all of these meetings that I attend, nobody talks about grief and early death for someone, or even in adulthood for death, can, if unresolved and not having the resources available, can actually put somebody in substance use and abuse. Can actually cause someone to have opioid abuse or some other abusive type personalities or traits or behaviors. I'm not saying all the time, I'm saying a good amount of time. There are statistics out there. One really good website out there with information is empathy.com. It's EMPATHY, empathy.com. Has really good information, adult information about how many people are sitting in the American culture in grief, having to go to work, having to pay bills, having to raise their children in grief, and what that the implications of unaddressed grief is. There's even more information on National Alliance for Children's Grief. Is I think NACGF or NACG, sorry, Alliance, and they have a lot of information as well on their website. So if you are a clinician watching this, or just a layman watching this, or a parent caregiver, there's a lot of information on that website as well. The Doogie Center, or is DOUGY. They have a lot of good information as well. But I want you guys, I'm so glad that you are here, whoever's watching, whether it's right now live or later on. Thank you guys for coming in. I'm doing a whole podcast this Saturday with a few guests that will come out in June, and just in time for Father's Day, for a couple of them that have lost their fathers. But I wanted this space to be a sacred space. I'm being as vulnerable with you as I can be in this upcoming season. You won't see the hair. You won't see a lot of makeup. You see me more relaxed because I don't really have time to do all the things to make it so immaculate. It's just going to be me as Little Sister Chris and your grief therapist having these conversations with other people about their healing stories. So you'll hear, yeah, those who have lost their fathers in domestic violence situations. So I'm really looking forward to hearing their healing process. Also, guys, I'll be doing more of Q&A this season. So if you have any questions for me as Little Sister Chris, or as your grief therapist, feel free to be able to do so. Feel free to reach out and do a Q&A right here on YouTube. I am working on my landing page, working on that for the new season. So I have changed the business name and working to reinvent and rebrand certain things in my life, outside of my life, and then have this podcast separate. All right, so this is just our sacred space, right? We not only honor other people, we honor the memories of our loved ones, our lost ones, but we also honor ourselves. And so that's the part where therapists don't realize in their sessions, and they won't tell you. And it's unfortunately, they're not trying to keep this information from you. They just don't know. They don't know. So One other thing that therapists won't tell you is that it is okay to honor yourself in this process. It is okay to take care of you. Although might be trying to take care of burials, you're trying to take care of financial issues, or even maybe family conflict or estates, or take care of everybody else in the family. But it is okay to honor you in your grief. It is okay to remember who you were before the grief happened, and to remember who you are, or get to know who you are as you are growing in healing. What does that look like? Because those two people are different people, way different people. So yeah, that's another thing that therapists won't tell you, and some won't tell you, is it's an honor to get to know you after the death has happened, or honor yourself. The other thing is therapists won't tell you because they might not know that it is okay to take breaks in grief. There is guilt around grief. There is guilt around if I am happy, if I'm laughing, if I'm vacationing, if I am moving forward. It is guilt. There's some guilt that our clients can, or even people who are not clients, have when they realize, oh my gosh, I think I'm forgetting about them because I'm laughing, or I'm having fun, or I'm going out on a date, or I'm going traveling, or whatever it is. They might feel like they're forgetting that they're in grief. And what the biggest deal is to value the time that you do have while you're laughing and while you're vacationing and having this time away. Because what we teach them is that joy and sorrow, I'm not doing the dynasty sign. I'm not denying, but joy and sorrow can live in the same house. And it's okay to take a break, because your brain needs that break. It needs a break to be able to make new memories. So that's another thing that therapists may not tell you in a grief session. Okay. My last and final, and this is free. This is free information. This is what I do. This is better than AI, y'all. So this is what I do with my clients at the very end of session. And I have them rating themselves. Rate themselves from 1 to 10. Okay. 1 is the absolute worst, all the way to 10 being the absolute best. Okay. And what they will rate themselves on is mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally, how they're getting along with other people, their relationship with self, and then if they want to, spiritually, how they're feeling. And this has been a good indicator for me, like really good indicator for me, what we're doing from week to week and what's happened. So, so rating themselves from 1 to 10, 1 is the absolute worst they've ever felt, all the way up to 10 being the absolute best they've ever felt. So, yes, mentally is their clarity of thought, their focus and concentration and memory, and even the content of their thoughts. You need to know what that is like up there when you are in a grief session with a client. And you need to be able, as a client, out there, as a client, you need to be able to gauge that with your therapist, to be able to say, these have been my thoughts recently. I need you to help me with my thoughts. Emotionally, how you're feeling on the inside. And then physically, how is your body feeling? I need you to rate that for me. Are you having somatic symptoms, headaches, tension in your areas of your back or your neck? What about digestive issues, or even just aches all over, unexplained aches? So we need to know these things, and you need to be able to tell your therapist if these things are happening to you. And relationally, is grief interrupting your relationships with the people that you love, or that you know, or that you work with? Is it 1, the worst you've ever been with them, or 10 being the absolute best? I've had clients to tell me, hey, I don't know how to answer that, because I really have been isolating myself. And that is true teeth, right? The true tea right there, where somebody says, I've been isolating myself, so I don't know what that's like. So I make notation. of there because we want to know the reason for isolation. Okay. And then relationship with self. How are you feeling connected with you? And in grief, you want to know that as well. And clients, you want to be able to tell your therapist as well. I feel disconnected from me. I don't even know who I am anymore. I'm trying to find me. Almost like grief has thrown you into this big tsunami, we call it the grief tsunami. And now I've come out as a different person that I don't even know. I don't recognize this person. And then lastly is spiritually. For those who identify as spiritual, to rate themselves 1 to 10. And this is a really good indicator. Sometimes I have discrepancies because there's times where, hey, people are getting along with others and they're good with that, but they have no connection with themselves and their spirituality is low. And so I need to be able to evaluate that on every time we meet, which is usually every week for a good amount of time, and then sometimes we titrate down to like bi-weekly, because I believe in graduating some of my clients, because not all the time do you need to be with me for a life. I believe in graduation. I believe in leveling up, all of that. All right. So I think those are the things that a therapist won't tell you, not because they're trying to hide it from you, it's because they might not know. So it is my duty to be able to educate therapists, to be able to educate individuals, educate my clients about all the science around grief and how that affects people's thought patterns, how it feels on the inside. Like it's a full body experience. And I don't think we really give it the credit that it deserves. It's very, for a lot of people, it's heavy. For other people, they can get up, dust themselves off, and be like, "Oh, I'm good for now." For now. All right, you guys, I'm not going to hold you too long. I've been on here for a little bit, and this is my first live that I have done in a very long time. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mom, for being here all the way from Tanzania. I know it is early, early morning for you. I don't know why you're up. And thank you, my sister friend from Memphis, who stepped right on the end. And for all of you who will be rewatching this live, I appreciate you for being here. I will be back in interview form coming up in June. So be on the lookout for that. I'm intentional about my guests. You have seen kind of whatever I've had so far. It will continue, but it'll look a little bit more relaxed because I'll be more relaxed. I'm more myself. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much for all you do, for all the things. If you have any questions or anything, just feel free to reach out to me right here on YouTube, right here in the comment section, and also on my email address, which is info@thegriefcenterheals.org. So that's temporary. I won't have that a lot, but in this mode, you can go ahead and hit the email info at the Grief Center TheGriefCenter heals HEALS.org. Yeah, I'm about to go take this makeup off and go to bed and all the things because it's been a long day of being a CEO and a therapist, and I'll be right back at it tomorrow. All right, I will talk to y'all soon. Love you. Bye. Thanks, Mom.